Ronnie.
You fucking right, mate.
G'day, guys and girls. This episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors, supshq.com.au. Use the code BWB10 at checkout for direct shipping and 10% off.
Welcome back to another episode, guys and girls, and those who don't identify to Bros with Brains. This is episode 100.1 because we did try to record this last week and we had some technical difficulties. So we still may run into technical difficulties. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're gonna find out.
Imagine we got to episode 100 and that's it. Like we just no more recording capacity.
Yeah, like my laptop doesn't want to record.
Yeah, legit.
So
it's just done.
we'll find out, but we should be right, I think, with this one. We'll see. So we're basically just going to run over the same content that you didn't listen to. So too bad.
Yeah. You get a second time. You know, the second one's just never as good as the first. Like the sequels that suck.
Yeah. So
hopefully that's not this.
Yeah, this would be one of those times where the sequel's actually better because the first one only went for like 30 minutes and then it cut out. Yet we recorded the entire thing and we're like,
now we've got practice at the preamble and now we've got just a runway for a good rant.
We've warmed up our glutes. We're ready to go. We've done our booty bands. I've
done some banded knee separation hip thrusts. I'm good to go.
I've done some frog pumps. My glutes are fucking on fire. Let's do this. Anyway, how we going?
Fuck.
Yeah,
hey, we're good now. We're even further ahead than last week when we were talking. So I had my this time last week I was into my refeeds and fucking weight came straight back down. So I'm at a nice cheeky 97.2 this morning.
And on the last episode, you were probably like 100 still.
yeah.
We missed the weigh-in in between.
Yeah. Hey, my fucking the weights in between last week and the last.
It's like episode 99 to 100. You dropped 3 kilos, 100%.
Yep,
man. That's how we roll.
100%, bro. That's what we do. Hey, it's just fucking. I love it. It's just such an easy. Like I had several people reply to one of my photos, like how? I'm like, I post the info. You see it. I'm just aggressive as fuck. There's no
how DM ESC.
Suffer and suck it up.
Hit the coach and inquiry link.
No, bro, I'm one of those coaches who hides that I have a coach because then I get worried I'm gonna lose clients.
Actually,
but that's none of my business.
I was gonna put something up like that about when I tagged Brooklyn in the Canva thing because about honestly like 10 people fucking replied. They're like, "Oh, someone's been getting creative on Canva." I'm like, "You guys give me way too much credit." They're like,
bro, we barely get content out of you, let alone make more content.
100%. You know how many people replied? They're like, "You actually posted?" And then Nellie's like, "You haven't posted since April." I'm like, I know. But I've gained 200 followers since then. So to your algorithm.
Suck a dick.
But yeah, it is a funny one. I was just like, well, I might even hit them back with another post. We'll see how we go. Shit.
Just double up, why not?
Might do 2 or 3 in a week, just surprise people.
Mate, and we'll do a post on the fucking simplicity of aggressive cutting. It's like I kind of, I don't even know if we talked about this last time. Obviously, at some point we've talked about it because I was cutting, but like explain to people the simplicity of it, but the complexity of it. Like you have to be, I believe, I will argue till the day I die, that intensity of like cutting or growing and training modalities is a skill. Like you have these people who argue against like us doing aggressive diets because it's net negative and it's neurotic and it causes these disorders, blah, blah, blah. Fuck off, shut up. I'm not going to start that rant. But 100%. The benefits of using it when you're versed and educated enough is that it's such an handy, easy tool to implement. It just takes a skill to learn to get to it, which is why when we go through any sort of like strategy, well, I go through with any strategy of a client that I want to work towards trialing how they respond to things. Generally, I'll start different magnitudes of intensity based on their history. So like if someone who's never dieted before, I'm not going straight to a no carb, protein sparing fast, fucking 2-week cut. We'll titrate at like 30, 40%, work down, get you pretty lean. Okay, you're pretty good. Let's grow. Now it'll be at a 15, 20, 25% surplus. Cut again. Now we're down 40, 50% fucking deficit. But each time you're gradually building the necessary skills and knowledge and experience of being that hungry in that short a time frame or that full for that period of time. Like you get exposed to it and now you're like, oh, this is a fucking breeze. The second I know when it comes time to me going through an aggressive cut, which is why I was like, when you were saying this coming up, I just go fucking straight to a shit ton of vegetables and salad, higher amounts of protein stays the same, but my protein sources differ so that they're more filling. I'll usually like, well, this is the first time I've done such an aggressive fat cut with high amounts of fats. So now I've got like, more whole food fat sources versus like spreads or
You've got
nut
more
butters.
variety, right? Than doing
Yeah.
trace
So
fats.
like bacon and eggs, sausages. I've got fucking different meat cuts, different chicken cuts. Like I can use red meats, but on top of that, I can then have like, rather than just having egg whites, I'm able to have whole food eggs, whole eggs and stuff like that, where the wholeness of the food is higher. So I'm more full, but also I'm way fucking leaner. So you gradually just go straight back to these skills. Even if I do a gradual deficit of 60% less carbs or something like that, I go down to 150 carbs. I just go straight to like Greek yogurt and fruit and Spud Light. But like you learn those skills through going into the process, right?
Well, it's like we have periodic training.
Yes.
Like, why isn't periodic nutrition a thing? Like,
I know.
we do have that. It is a phase of dieting, and it's like we have phases of dieting that match training output usually. But it's like, hold on. Sometimes we need to flip it and make nutrition the main goal or the main task, because with body composition and bodybuilding, we'll call it, specific goals. Like in your off season, you're going to have targets both from a performance standpoint, but also from an aesthetic standpoint. And sometimes to look really good, like sometimes performance isn't going to be the best.
Yeah.
There is going to be a period of time where those do not
It's going to
match.
inverse.
So it's like you're going to have to suffer in one for the other to prosper.
Yeah.
And then, when you're lean enough, and you're going to have then that period of time where both go super well, like you look phenomenal and you're eating so much that your performance is going through the roof. It's like, then that's sort of the goal. But to get to that goal, you need to go through the shit.
Yeah. And so people like, you see people like, oh, you shouldn't have aesthetic goals, start with performance goals, or like performance in the gym goals and build muscle or something. Like, yeah, that works to a degree. But you've got to be like, again, and this is what we're going to try and teach over in America, is what I've kind of termed like the body composition spectrum, is that as your client or a person, as you as a person, moves along that spectrum up the degree of intensity of like your body composition goal, eventually just having, say, performance goals in the gym isn't enough, where it's like, oh, you can recomp just by training 3 to 4 days a week and aim to be stronger with more protein. Of course you can, if you're a novice to intermediate that's not been doing that before. However, once you start graduating towards that higher degrees of body composition, there's certain points in time where just being like, oh, just aim for gym performance is not going to be enough to get you shredded. And shredded is relative, obviously, but shredded to the point of like getting super compensation, coming back out of that through a growth block for another 20 to 30 weeks. That's a degree of lean that just training performance won't get you. Now you're just worried about matching training performance.
Well, exactly right. It's like when you are in that harsh deficit, like even you're going to regress slightly in terms of performance output. It's not necessarily from a lack of musculature or a loss of musculature.
Fucking fuel.
Between fuel and mechanical changes, because your body composition has changed. Your mechanics have changed. So things will change. Like, that's just it.
Dude, you started me on fucking, like, at the start of the cut was a new block phase where I've introduced Smith machine, rows, and incline press. My presses before the cut were 50 kilo dumbbells on fucking inclines for like sets of 10 to 15. My incline pressing now with a fucking tempo control at top end and bottom end of position is like, I think I've got a nice little progression this week. It was like 2 sets of 10 or 11 at 90. I feel like a weak bitch, but like, it's a new skill. It's a new movement. I haven't done Smith machine work in fucking 2 years. So of course it's going to be slightly weaker.
Well, the thing is, you progressed.
Yeah. And still progressed. Right. Exactly.
It's like, who would have thought, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I'm hungry. I should, watch out. I'm in a diet. I can't train hard.
Yeah. Anyway, people are stupid.
So it's going well though. Like we're finally at a point now where, and I've been trying to get it through some of my clients' like heads as well, that like I'm living the get flat to lose fat fucking our terminology, our bumper sticker is, I'm at that point now where like the flatness is starting to show, the body fat is coming off, and it's like, another couple of weeks of this before we figure, decide to push it further, go to America, have refeeds, whatever over there, have food, come back, see what happens then. But like I just said to you, like I said to you before, or what I say, Monday after check-in, when first time I missed a check-in was because I had a fucking impromptu call with someone 12 hours away, but I was like, yeah, all right. Scaff decides to be on time for check-ins once and I missed the fucking window.
It's not good enough. Be better.
But I was just like, at a certain point, I was like, okay, so can I increase my supplements? No. Okay. There's no more food to take away. Okay. Can I increase my output a bit? Yeah, do some more cardio. Cool. I'm gonna do 60 minutes on the bike for the next 2 weeks. I don't give a fuck. Like, instead of fighting the hard and trying to find ways to make it easier, or finding ways to, I don't know, complain about it more, just fucking lean into the suck.
The harder you go, the faster it's done too, right? But you have that experience from, like
Exactly.
you said, previous periods of time where you've done this. Whereas someone fresh off the bat and off the boat, they both work. All my ethnics, where you at? That's that's not what you would usually do, unless obviously if there's some sort of, like, again, outside the bell curve health spectrum thing that you're like, shit, dude, I'm going to put you on 1,000 calories. Here we go, just because you're 185 kilos and I need to get you down, like ASAP. But these things happen. But you're right, there are two sides to that equation, or that pendulum. People do forget that, especially with like a natural client, it's really hard to bottom out their food once they've hit bottom. Like, you can't really go any lower without genuinely starting to bring in health concerns over time, because we do know a lot of the health concerns come over from chronic dieting, not necessarily from patches of dieting or shorter periods of time of dieting. But there is that other side where output, you can probably drive output a little bit more. The problem is the energy intake really restricts you from a physiological standpoint to wanting to do more output, because your body's like, well, I'm going to use all this energy to basically live and not do anything. But again, mind over matter, blah, 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 blah. Message Ben for body confidence psychology shit.
Be less fat. That's the confidence shit.
It's a good plug. You're welcome.
I'm gonna record that. Message Ben for the body confidence shit.
We're gonna get Brooklyn to cut it out. That's gonna be your new promo for Instagram.
Yeah, that's testimonial.
Cut it, deliver it. We're done.
Yeah, that is a certain point. Like, I had this conversation recently actually with someone about, like, I think people. Well, we were talking about how much people over justify auto down regulation when it comes to things like dieting. Like, people go ham on that. They're like, no, I can't do more because, the body stopped me from doing X, Y, Z and blah, 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 bullshit, blah, blah, fucking system down regulation, blah, blah. Like, yes, we know it's a thing. It does happen. However, so it's like the equivalent of overtraining. The likelihood that you've actually reached that, and the reality is you're just tired and lazy and feeling lethargic, is, not very real. Like, am I at my absolute max of effort? I mean, fuck, man, I collapsed in fucking comp prep on the bike because I was like, let's do an hour cardio. Fuck it. I literally fell off the thing because I couldn't sleep and I was so tired from just like being stupid. But at the same time, I was like, fuck it, we're already sending it. Let's send it. That was probably at the bottom end of, like, that's good amounts of fatigue. I'm pretty well done there. That's cooked. At this point, I've still got so much body fat that fuck off. Like, my body's going to find the fuel for the system somewhere. That's the point. So it's not that big a deal. And realistically, finding a fucking hour on your bike when you've got, work from home or extra food and you've got time in the day, like, cool. It's not a big deal. It's going to fucking help, if anything. And here we are. So yeah, we're down, like, fuck, relatively my abs came back in already, which is good. Like, fucking lower stomach's still a bit to go, but I mean, they're starting to get veins and shit again and all that sort of stuff. My back details come out. So yeah, cut's working. I'm just excited for the next phase, where I had some people ask what the plan was. And I'm like, pretty much the next phase is, I've told Scaff he has like unrestricted, untethered permission to ensure that I never do classic again. And that's not even a bad way of me doing classic. It's just that I want to make sure that I never do classic again. So off we go.
We have a walking nugget coming up. We're good.
5'8", fucking Cav was so surprised at my height. He's like, oh, you're a short guy. I was like, fuck.
The goal is to get you to a sleep pap.
Yes.
A CPAP. That's the goal.
100%. 100% is.
Can you imagine that? It's like, you sign up to a coach. What's your goal? I want a CPAP at 10% body fat.
Yep.
Send me there.
Why not? Let's do it. I mean, the fucking goals are written there on your check-in form. End of year, 110 lean. Fucking before prep, at least 115.
Yeah, we got that. That's easy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. Besides that, man, just fucking getting the seminar finished. We're now, oh fuck, man, Jesus Christ, we're literally 3 weeks away, and we had an impromptu call with Cav about everything yesterday and kind of what the premise is of the week planned out and that sort of shit. Turns out we also didn't know that he's like, oh, just going through your program and stuff. He's like, I want you to run this workshop, or like apparently there's gonna be like a seminar or another workshop going on. He's like, we're having it at a gym. He's like, you come in there and present that. And I was like, cool. He's like,
thanks.
We're going to talk to these guys and talk to these guys and introduce you to these guys. And I was like, he's like, do you have issues with like meeting people? He's like, once I put my word to you meeting someone, you've got to like, your job then is to follow up. And I'm like, bro, if it's going to better me, put me in front of all of them. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like
I can do that.
yeah, of the things I can do, make sure there's modafinil in my bedroom, in my fucking hotel, and I'm good to go. It's like, all right,
Man, just take some up. It's easy. Just put in your bag.
yo, fucking legit. I'm just gonna take a 40 pack into triple drop.
Yeah, 100%. Make it fun.
But yeah, so that's it. That's pretty much where things are going. Train's good.
Yeah, nice.
Fucking
Cool.
food's good. Weight's coming down. You're coming up this week. We got fucking
Yeah.
a team posing workshop. It's really cool. We've got marketing and advertising. It's about to be run through Powerhouse. We're about to run their first ever posing workshop out of their facility, which is cool.
Is that what we're doing Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got that's what's literally what we organized Chris for.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was like the first posing workshop for Powerhouse. I didn't know.
Oh, no,
where
it's,
we
no,
were
it's
going.
for us, but it's the first one ever done there. Like it's
Yeah, I
like-
didn't realize what was going on. I just sort of thought I'd be rocking up and telling people to just be better. Really.
yeah, pretty much that's my game plan. Like
Yeah.
all right,
It's like,
fat
what
and
is
need a
that?
posing
You
properly.
call that a double buy? Come here.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much the gist of it. But yeah, Chrissy's coming down for that as well. So it's gonna be a nice little training session. I told some of the team, I was like, look, if you want to see how we train and not just how I tell you to train, we'll be training beforehand. Feel free to come by. It's a leg day. Have some fun.
Are we doing? So we're doing leg Sunday
Yeah.
this week because that'd be my first leg session back after that'd be like almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did so now that listeners are listening. So last week was 2 days after my pancreas decided to shit itself again.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Joe sends me my new block, sends me my new program, and he's got new check-in sheets. So he sent me the whole thing so I can have a squiz and get familiar with it, usual shit. But he's like, you are not to train until the next check-in. I'm like, that'll be 10 days, Joe. Like, what do you mean? He goes, Aaron, don't fucking train. I'm like, fine, I'm just going to play a ton of golf because I got nothing else to do. So between golf and doing online work, so I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll do that. So that'll be, because I land on Friday. I was trying to work out if I want to train on the Friday after flying, but if I do, I might do upper, and then I'll, that actually might work. That'll work. Do legs on Sunday. That'll be fun.
So yeah, we get Tom, Rowan, me, you, Chris, all at Powerhouse training our sessions. Us three can just do my fucking leg program.
Yeah, what do you got? Which one do you got?
I do lower 2 on the Sunday, which is pendulums, hammies, extensions, adductors.
That'll be fun because I'll probably just swap out pendulums for hack. You guys have a hack squat there, don't you?
Yeah, we got a hack as well.
Yeah, no, pendulum has jacked up my knee. That's why I switched them out.
True.
That's it's like the 16-week cycle of pendulums that I had. I've rotated them out, but I mean, we'll see how it's feeling. Because you've got the Atlantis pendulum, don't you?
I can't remember. It's custom painted. I can't remember exactly which one it is though.
Right,
it's not bad actually. It actually like the video I posted today actually got really nice. I just don't like fucking safeties because it leaves like another couple of inches in the tank. Like they really over assume how unsafe people are.
I think that might be an Atlantis, but anyway, we'll work it out when we get there. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, it's still good. Like I was at like bottom range of my feet and still got maximum knee flexion. I was like, fuck, okay, like I can go right with this. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan for Sunday. And we've got Chrissy Boy coming down. I think he said he might even get Az to come down as well, just to work because one of my guys wants to he's going to do physique. So
physique, nice.
Tweak him a bit and hopefully do some training or some shit there as well. So Brooklyn will get the camera there beforehand and do some content. And then we've got a fucking refeed in there somewhere planned. 2-day refeed.
Yeah. Sushi.
Has some foods, some sushi. Which is it?
The annual, or is it biannual? No, more than biannual. Monthly? No, quarterly sushi train run.
That was such a difference in scales. Like it's either annually or monthly. No, there's like 12 different in between there.
Yeah, I was just trying to work out how often I'm up there. Quarterly is probably about right.
Quarterly is a bit more accurate. You're up for
I was going to say, I was just
back up for July. Yeah,
it's about right.
Yeah,
that'll do.
Side note though, actually, speaking of, because like this fucking episode dropped after the fact last week, is I pulled a fucking, what did I get? A distinction? No. What is it? What's a 5?
I don't know. Your scale is way off. I'm old, man. We didn't have that scale.
Anyway, it was a fucking pissed off. It was a 5.9 basically like 74%, 75% is a distinction, which is a fucking 6, which is like your A, and then a 7's your A plus. So I got fucking 74%, and I've submitted a request to challenge the grade to review it, because I'm like, bruh, surely you can find me 1% of a question somewhere that gets me a fucking like. I found out there's a guy, there's a guy at the gym and stuff, that rock up to the exams and like hope to wing the final study, and then just rock up. He's like, oh yeah, I got like a 4.9 or whatever it was, or 53% with like next to no effort. And I was like, the equivalence there is he's only one grade below me, yet I sat on the edge of like being at a fucking at a distinction, like a high separation. I'm like, a 6 is a very big difference in my GPA when I have to do like a postgraduate degree that requires a GPA to get accepted. I was like, that reflection there of 74%, which should be 75, which is a 6, compared to someone who just showed up and didn't really try and was like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like, I'm pretty good at remembering on the day, and gets a 4, but yet he's like only 1% shy of me with a 5 now. That's technically how that works. And I was like, that's just fucking shit.
Yeah, that's pretty shit.
But what can you do? It means I have to be better.
Well, yeah, exactly right. But leading into first topic of making hard things soft, I mean easier.
A good wank makes things hard to soft, but
How do we go from hard to soft? Well, there's no pill for that.
Really fast flexion and extension of the wrist.
Just think, dead puppies, dead puppies, dead puppies.
I hear if you stick a thumb up your bum, that's
I feel like some people will probably be into that.
Hey, whatever. It's 2023, man. I don't judge.
Isn't if you hit the prostate, you get automatically aroused? Not that I know.
You said that very confidently with no experience.
I do read a lot.
I read anatomy.
I'm not old enough to get my prostate checked yet. We're good.
That's fair. So where did we go with this last time? We were discussing the concept of making things easier with the perception of trying to show off like you're harder.
Yeah, well, it was people saying that if you're going to do something like a bodybuilding prep, you need to go through the suck. Making it easier is just like it's stupid. It's not going to get you there. And the whole point was, well, there's no research to show that if you make something very difficult much easier, like a bodybuilding prep, you still don't end up with the result on stage being good.
Yeah. So we had a really good fucking rant about this last week. Hopefully we can emulate it.
Actually, I feel like I could probably send it off and have it edited, but it'd be like 30 minutes. Maybe like a short clip on it.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have it as just its own thing, maybe.
Maybe, but also
Let's
fuck it. It was just fun rant. But yeah, point being was I shared a story because I fucking seen it again from a level of people like, to me, to start getting really opinionated and like push your beliefs or perspectives on people, like you have to have a pretty good resume of what you do and at least be at a status of position where you can talk about it from a level of authority that your perspective is the right one because this is the results that it's got. Now, I saw a fucking story was shared with me and I couldn't help myself. I just had to challenge it because like my main premise with everything I share on socials is always I want someone to think. So if they've been stuck with someone else's dumb perspective and they see mine or someone shares it, it just challenges critical thinking and makes you sit and go, oh, fuck, was I actually right about that? Or is Ben right about that? Or is Ben wrong? Or even is this my take wrong? Now, the premise was this person had positioned the fact that only good bodybuilders basically go through the suck and make the suck even harder. Like you should be able to go through a prep and you're cheating yourself and the old school bros and bodybuilders, like you're not as hard as them and it's not as intense if you're doing things like Diet Right, Pepsi Max, Jelly Light, making the things, making those choices that we know for a fact in most psychological instances help make the hard thing a bit more sustainable, which is honestly like the prep is already hard. As we said, there is no evidence to suggest that making the hard thing harder that is already at the cap of hard going to produce you a better result than if you make things slightly more tolerable that sustain the hard. As we know, most people that when things get really hard, we drop to our systems, not our goals. So if you're making things hard and prep is already hard and you go, yeah, but I'm a fucking hard cunt. I'm going to not have any enjoyable foods. I'm not going to have any sweetness. I'm not going to have any fucking enjoyment in my life because I got to show the world, which for some reason, why the fuck are you doing what the world is seeing and saying that's your life?
Yeah.
That is how you're determining your prep, is going to be a lot more negative and less sustainable than someone being like, I know this is hard. I've got a few ways I can make this enjoyable and sustainable, along with the process of, yes, enjoying the changes, the growth, the physical development, the body composition, recomposition, the fat loss. Like you enjoy those things. However, to sustain that, I want you to at least be able to sustain a 20-week deficit with a few diet breaks and things. Like we can work that in. But if you're sitting there acting like you're the hardest cunt in the world because XYZ, I don't have these things when everyone else does, yet there's no evidence that on stage that gets you a better judgment, because the judge doesn't go, it's not even WBFF. They look at your followers, sure, but they don't go, well, how did this person prep in off season? How did this person prep in prep?
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Once you're on stage, what you present is how you're judged. So if person A's method is, I know that prep is hard. I fucking dig into my training, my dieting, my nutrition, my sleep, everything's on point. But I also know that I can sustain that longer with some Pepsi Max, some Diet Right, some fucking frozen jelly, some fucking frozen fruits, like making a fucking, I don't even know what you want to make. But if you can do that and make it a little bit easier, and it's something you can consistently do without binging, blowing out, overconsumption, disrupting digestion, you can do that, fucking go nuts, because there is no evidence on stage that is going to make you judged worse when we can see, especially if you're going to relate back to, like, you know, say you're going to try and portray yourself as an old school bro, like, and trust me, these guys are natural. They're not old school bros. They're natural. You're
100%.
nowhere near as fucking prevalent in bodybuilding as, say, a Lee Priest or whoever you're trying to like carry yourself as.
Mhm.
You're not going to get a better judgment or result because you're making things harder. Like they're not going to look at your shape. They're not going to look at that and go, oh, you know what? He didn't have any of those foods that he enjoyed in prep. He kept all those flavors out, fucked, and give you an extra 5 points. He's going to be placing second to me versus that other guy who's 10th. That's not how that works. If my model or my method or X person's model or method brings a person to stage that is in the most disgusting lean condition that you fucking see, but they've also managed to enjoy some cereal, or they've had some fucking light jelly, or they've had some light cordial, or fucking Pepsi Max, they've had like fucking sugar-free maple syrup, and they've managed to have it on like crumpets or like make English muffin French toast, whatever the fuck you want to do. If it's something you can consistently do and tick off and be adherent to and inside your boxes, and you aren't shitting yourself liquid because you're doing it, there's no evidence that that's going to be a better situation, a better result than if you just try to be a hard cunt and like literally for what seems to be the premise of social perception, that you're tougher than everyone else on stage because you did X, Y, Z with foods. And that's how the old school used to do it. The old school, they literally had cheat days every fucking week.
They still do.
They still do. 5,000-6,000 calorie fucking cheat days where they're like in prep. Like you got Yuan Diesel used to have like 5 cookies of his fucking My Cookie dealer on his like preps, and he's still one of the most conditioned dudes in the fucking world. That was his like, that's still a common occurrence in some professional fucking coaching strategies is, right, we'll dig the fuck out of you Monday to Saturday, and then Sunday pretty much just have like burgers, ice cream, chips, fucking cookies, pancakes, whatever you want, and then back to it Monday. Like your perception of being a 70, 80 kilo natty that isn't even a pro or isn't at pro status, that's the model you have to prep by because you're just highly conscientious and task orientated and don't have any fucking emotional flavor reception, does not make you a better bodybuilder on stage. It's just, if you put that across the population of bodybuilders, I guarantee that method doesn't work as good.
Yeah, and like I said, if you actually had data to prove that, like whether it would be anecdotal or whether it would be, you know, an actual peer-reviewed research.
Show me, 100% show me.
Yeah, to say that, you know, doing it what we deem, I guess, the hard way with, you know, not making things a little bit easier, a little bit more manageable, and that's going to yield a better result on average, then 100% you have, you know, an argument to make, but you don't. And the pure reason why is because we have probably the research to show that, you know, things like refeeds and diet breaks, while not from a physiological standpoint, probably from a psychological standpoint, are going to be more beneficial. Well, it's going to make, you know, harder tasks easier and more bearable. Well, it's pretty straightforward.
Fucking exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why we look at things like, you know, it used to be, you know, 12-week preps. And now we're looking at them like, hey, let's make them 20. We can slow the rate of loss. We can be more gradual with it.
Yeah,
we
right.
can introduce more refeeds. We can have some more food. However, you know, it might be a little bit longer but it means that you have a less aggressive approach. It's more sustainable. There's probably periods of time where you might have the allowance to fuck up and sort of pull it back. And you can still maintain some satiety, some fucking sanity, some food, some sleep, some good recovery, some train intensity. And you're probably going to, end up in a much healthier position because it's only really aggressive for maybe the last 4 to 6 weeks, of which then we back off and reduce food by reduce fatigue by increasing food and dropping off training volume. Like we know those things that we can do that, make it a little bit more, fresh, if you will. The body looks more fresh on stage.
Well, that's exactly it.
You don't need to fucking make it any harder than that. Like the mechanics of the process are simple. It's already hard because we know people are struggle with execution. So why make it harder to execute when we already know that it's hard? It doesn't make you a tougher cunt or like a more boss-ass bodybuilder.
It makes you smarter.
Yeah.
It genuinely makes you smarter. The dumb people do it the hard way, or they've really fucked up and they've needed to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
The smart people don't do it the hard way. The smart
And
people do the hard things easier and more efficiently.
Yeah, you can work hard and work smart. Like I'm sick of this notion that's it's almost like this contrast that goes around where it's like there's the bro science guys who just fucking send their training, or there's the data guys that want to find the ways to make the data easier, or like X, Y, Z training reserve and shit. It's like yeah, but when you find someone or you find people that can combine them both, I love a good bit of bro science. One thing I'm finding is that more advanced in knowledge and coaching I get, the more simplified my nutrition becomes, the more simplified my food strategies become, the more simplified my processes and training, because that inverted U kicks in where, we think we've changed the game. We're like, oh, fuck, I've learned all this new stuff. And what gets the best result is when you narrow down that freedom, you narrow down the I guess, openness of it all. And it's like, hey, stick within these boundaries and you're pretty sweet. Start doing that. Guess what? That's fucking dangerous. When you have someone that can be like scientifically based or evidence-based, numbers driven, but train like a fucking bro, that's when shit gets fun. That's where you 100%. Get like, you look at your John Dewarts, your fucking Kubas, like they start getting mad results. That's why you see guys like Samson go train with them to learn how can I be more scientific in my bro approach, but still train like a bro and still have some fun.
Well, the thing is, you look at them and how they approach it exactly the way we're talking about it, making hard things easier. So
exactly.
I mean, if they do it, why not?
But yeah, that's kind of just I don't know. It's just something that it just irked me when, like, don't get me wrong. If it's your way, cool. I don't give a fuck. That's your way. Fantastic. Happy for you. Yeah. Send it. If that's what you live by. This is the problem when people that are highly conscientious, very emotionally less regulated, meaning like they're not emotionally regulated, they're just unemotional, like almost amotivated, apathetic, if you will. And they start speaking on absolutes or determining like strategies based on their skill or their ability, because to them it's nothing. It's like the comparison of people that spend 10 years tracking food and then talk about intuitive eating. Like, fuck up, dickhead, you've learned a skill that's not intuitive.
100%. It's like we have so many things to consider if you're going to try and speak in absolutes, and when it comes from a point of not superiority, but like you're trying to speak as an expert or something along those lines. It's like you do need to take in like a whole stack of different thought processes before you deliberate and actually start talking, because we have anecdote and we have like peer-reviewed evidence, right? They're the two things that most people sort of think about. Then when it comes to like things that are physiological, for example, then people start to use like, well, not necessarily things that are research or anecdotal, then they just go by literal science, like, well, this is what it is. So you have like, that's the third point to look at depending on what we're talking about. So then it's like, well, hold on, is it coachable? Is it something we can get someone to do? Like there's so many things to consider as a coach when it comes to your application and methodology behind doing something, whether it be dieting or training. And it's like the whole, remember, like the resistance band thing, like how many people in the past have now been posting about not using resistance bands or shouldn't use resistance bands for hacks, bar a tiny thing. And it was going to lead into the conversation we spoke about in terms of people moving machine mechanics to make it easier or harder. Remember, like we spoke about people grunting and making noise and loading machines. And you've probably seen it, like listeners that have seen people in the gym where they alter the movement mechanics of the machine to either make it easier or harder. But it really depends on the person, right? Like I reverse band my hack squats. I will argue night and day about it because I know why I do it, and I have every facet to talk about it. I know why I do it. I don't use a reverse band to take tension out of the bottom of the hole. Yes, it might do that, depending on also the tension of the band. Like we have varying degrees of band thickness. The thicker the band, the less resistance, or the more resistance you're going to have taken out of the hole. So the less resistance you're going to have.
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
lighter it gets. Yeah. You only need a little bit of resistance to be taken out for the purpose of why I use the band, to take pressure out of my knees in full knee flexion.
Yes.
I want to achieve maximal quad, stimulation, like adaptation. I want to use the quad as much as humanly possible in a hack squat.
Yep.
For me to do that for a block of 12, 16, 20 weeks, it is much smarter for me to use a very light resistance band that gives me really no benefit. I'm not saying it doesn't give me any benefit, because it does. I won't say that it won't, but minimal effort in the hole in terms of taking weight away.
If
However,
99%
it is more than enough to keep my knee fucking healthy. You know why? I've got no meniscus in it.
Like if I'm like, this is where like, again, we can manipulate things to make them more beneficial or productive or efficient, and also still keep them hard, right? Like I can still, like, the hack squat at Powerhouse, you can modify it to be basically a vertical fucking leg press if you want to. Sorry, horizontal leg press. That's how fucking, like, that's how much manipulation you can put on the pedal. Now, the way I manipulate the exercise is I have fucking shitty knees, but I also know that with my back, I can't back squat. Back squatting for me is fucking terrible. Deadlifting for me is terrible at most angles or degrees, just because, like, well, I've got a fucking little spinal damage. So for me, like, I'm going to send on the hack squats and pendulums. I can get massive knee flexion, basically the most you could possibly get out of the machine. I can get nothing but pure quad recruitment and create massive tension, create excellent cadence and rep control, because everything's standardized. It has external stability. So everything there is safe and supportive for me. Bar the bottom of the movement, I get a little bit of niggle in my knee. Now, according to most people, you say, oh, well, but fucking, if it's causing you pain, like, you should assess the problem. Like, I know what the problem is. So if I'm going to run this exercise, which is one of the best quad exercises I've run forever.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that for what we did, like 28 weeks. The hack was in my program. If I'm going to run a fucking exercise for 28 weeks, and I know that the load has to get harder and harder, I have to reset and adjust my technique to, like, keep tweaking and improving it as load gets better. And I can keep adding load whilst improving. I'm like, that 28 weeks, if I didn't have that band, would be fucking agonizing. That slight benefit at the bottom of the hole, where it just helps a microcosm of a change that takes some pressure off my knees to drive out. That's going to give me, now I can run that exercise for how long without a niggle or a flare up, keep treating my quads, keep treating my knees, keep those things getting better and still get stronger. I'm looking at the longevity of my training career as a bodybuilder and what I'm trying to achieve, and going, you know what, that 1% reduction means a 99% efficient movement. Guess what I'm going to fucking do? Run that exercise at 28 weeks for 99% efficiency. Yeah, it's making the mechanic, I guess, slightly more beneficial, but it's not making it easier.
Yeah, the argument that most people will say is, okay, well, change the exercise. If it's giving you pain, change the exercise. Fair argument.
Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
Do an exercise, gives you pain, change the exercise. Okay. If it's accrued pain over time, it can be minimized. The other thing is, the only other better exercise for maximal quad engagement, as shown probably by I think from the research from memory, is the pendulum. You can't reverse band a pendulum.
No, correct.
The way the pendulum is
fucking
designed,
stand on there, they put their hand on the fucking thing.
Yeah, unless you're going to get someone spotting you the entire
It's
time,
a counter mechanism,
giving you resistance, like giving you assistance out of the hole every rep. Hey, if you got a training partner that's willing to do that, maybe you have an argument. But until then, the hack squat is going to be a safer thing to reverse band, and then help you take pressure out, a slight pressure or enough pressure out of the bottom, for me personally, to protect my knee. Now, if I'm double banding with purple bands or green bands, different story.
Yeah.
100%. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're an absolute flog. Change the exercise, make it harder for yourself. I get it. Again, appropriate comments, appropriate posts, appropriate things for the appropriate people at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, don't discredit why people do it, especially when you look at someone like Ian Valier with 8 plates aside, 9 plates aside, and guess what he's got on? A fucking reverse band. And this is when we look at research, anecdote, and then personal opinion or logic or, physiological, like actual science. It's like, we've got all these different things to look at. you're like people that say talk in absolutes are usually talking about it from a personal standpoint or a personal bias.
Yeah.
Whereas we have to have a look at a lot of facets, and a good coach will not talk in absolutes when it comes to exercise selection or execution of said exercise. You could argue, hey, yeah, it takes tension out of the bottom. Sure, you're right. You can always replicate that tension by putting more weight on the thing over time and not have knee pain because you have a reverse band on it.
But also, like, there's a difference. There's a difference in trying to make something more like pain-free, more productive, more efficient, and not carrying it with ego. Like, we're not talking about, like, we're not adding a band for the essence of being like, I've got a fucking 300 kilo hack and it's on basically a horizontal fucking press motion and it's got, you know, triple thick bands on it, taking basically all the tension away. We're just literally making a slight adjustment to the mechanic to benefit the knee over long term to maximize the quad recruitment of the exercise. Versus going, you know, let's say Ian did it and he's got fucking like quadruple fucking bands on it. He's got like a 400 hack squat. Every kind of be like, you know, the brain goes, hey, maybe either take those off or assess why you need to use them to get that response. Take them away, you probably get, you know, a 250 hack squat, little safer and also probably actually beneficial. But if you're getting like a 250, 300 hack squat and you're 200, 250, 300, whatever it is relative to you, and you're getting that with consistent progressive overload, it's still fucking hard. You're training to degrees of failure without knee pain. Like, you're making something more efficient, not easier. The problem is when you make it easier to seem tougher. That's where we're drawing the line.
The whole point to progressive training is not getting injured because injury is really bad for progression. So if we can minimize injury where possible and still progress, we're probably still getting bigger and achieving our goal. And it's like the hack squat like that you guys have that actually goes quite far back. I don't mind an adjustable hack squat. I wish they were preloaded to different degrees, but they're not. Most of them, I don't think any of them are. Like, it'd be nice if they were just like pin, you know, each pin was like 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees, and you just keep going all the way back. Like, that'd be nice, but they're not. But if you go all the way back, that's perfectly fine, because that's going to take, guess what, a lot of pressure out of your fucking knees, because joint stress versus muscle belly stress are two different things. Yes, they can work hand in hand. The more vertical you are in any leg movement or axial loaded movement, guess what, the more pressure you're going to have in said joint. So if we can take pressure out of the joint and place more tension on the belly, sure. Does that mean you'll need to use more weight that would be equivalent to if you were more vertical? Yes. You cannot be using the same fucking weight. I did find my notebook, and then I think I've lost it.
That's right. I'm trying to work out the fucking
that we were talking about. It is a physics calculation, and I do have it. I don't remember. Actually, wait, I got it right here. I got it here. I knew I found it somewhere. I mean, people that are watching are going to be like, what's this guy talking about? Because you probably need to actually watch the YouTube video. But I've actually worked out calculations on how to do it. Yeah, like, I actually have calculations on how, when I was loading like 4 plates on a hack squat, like, I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but anyway. Wait, zoom. There, see?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I've got calculations because I nerded out, because that's what I do. So anyway, shut your mouth. If the exercise is easier for you and you can progress on it, and you are actually, obviously, you know, progressing, going close to failure, all that shit, you know, then by all means have at it. And if anyone tells you differently, tell them to suck your left.
Because it's not like you're picking an exercise where you can quadruple the weight and also do like 20 reps and be like, I'm still got something left in the tank. I'm strong as fuck. Like, that's very different to making something slightly more advantageous or beneficial to help you train harder for longer with better results and better tension and stimulus. Very different conversations.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's kind of like our good mixture of rambles there. In the sense of, like, because basically, like, the quick summary was, the other week there was a few people around gyms that were modifying exercises basically to make them easier, a lot easier, but then put it on a load that makes it look like they're hella strong, sounding like it makes them hella strong, and then you look at it and you're like, okay.
Yeah, the sound is the problem. You have to adjust load if you're making an exercise easier to still hit the equivalent worth or adaptation worth, if that makes sense. So it's like, if you're doing three plates on a hack squat, like a Cybex hack squat, 40-degree angle, whatever it is, cool. You know where you stand. Jump on the one that's at your gym and pull it back to fucking 80 degrees. Well, then you may need to use 6 plates to hit the equivalent of 3 plates. But if you've got 6 plates on and you're going for it, by all means, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You're still adapting. It just means that you're going to reach the ceiling probably faster purely
Yeah.
because you've got no space on the fucking
Put that
bar
angle
on
up a
the
little
body.
bit, and suddenly that weight
Yeah.
comes back down.
Yeah, and then the higher you go up and closer to vertical, usually the less, guess what, the less weight you're probably going to be hitting, but the more joint stress you're going to be accumulating. So
Yeah.
it's trying to find that happy balance. Again, why it's a machine that's on an angle and
Just
not just
don't
using
add
a
the
fucking
fucking
squat.
noise.
Otherwise, everyone would just bloody barbell squat or Smith squat.
Just don't
But
have
no
the
one
fucking
does.
noise.
There's a hack that the hack is actually designed to be on an angle for a reason.
Shocking.
Like, who would have thought? Like the pendulum,
Shocking.
the arc of the pendulum is designed for a reason.
No.
Anyway, let's not get into
Just
that.
make things easier.
Yes. Questions?
Questions. Let's do it.
Questions. Actually, I had a really good one. Yeah. It had to be messaged because it was long. It's
like
about
that.
deloads.
Ooh.
Last week I had a deload week. This week I'm back to normal. This week I am sore as fuck, like death row. And when I was training, I swear I am able to feel each muscle being worked more intensely. Obviously, nothing else has changed. The only variable was the deload. So my question is this normal? Or is there some sort of reason behind why that would happen?
Ooh. Let's go. Good question.
I mean, there's a lot in there to unpack.
There's a lot in there.
So basically, why is there DOMs post deload?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Now, again, the first thing I would look at is obviously what has changed, because no one is robotic enough to be the same. So, person says that nothing has changed. I highly doubt it. And there could be the smallest minuscule change that, equates to that being DOMs. But usually I'd be interested to see, and what's not mentioned in the message is how much more weight did you put back on?
Yeah.
On the actual machine. So
Yeah.
like, how much weight did you use? Did you use the weight from the first week of your block, or did you use the weight from the last week of your block before the deload? Because that's going to have a big implication on what happens post deload. Because now that you washed away stress, muscles have pretty much recovered. They're not in this fluctuation of, break, recover from, periods of days and weeks on end. That they're fully as fresh as possible, we'll call it. So it's like as much as it sounds really stupid, it's the new tearing effect, we'll call it, or the breaking down of the muscle again once it's completely been recovered.
Yeah.
You're using a load that you've only touched once.
Yeah.
So using that as your start or your base it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you can hit it, but don't be surprised if you do have DOMs, because in theory, from a logical perspective, right, we would say, I did leg press with 3 plates in my first week. I finished with leg press and 6 plates in my last week. I'm not going to do a deload and then go back to leg press with 6 weeks, with 6 plates.
Yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
but what's that room for progression going down later? You'd probably go, okay, I did 3 plates. I'm going to go 4 plates.
Yeah.
In my first week.
It usually looks like weeks 2 to 3 sort of numbers, right?
Yeah. And then you're going to progress. So then by the end of the block, you finish with 6 plates on the last one. Now you're finishing with 8 plates. Oh, look, progression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, a lot of people don't probably realize that or know to do that or have that thought process, which again, I don't mind, because this is a say as I do, or do say as I say, or do as I say, not as I do, because I would do the exact opposite and do the exact same weights that I did last week.
Pretty much. I just go straight to failure.
Send it and die. Yeah, like that's what I would do. I wouldn't go back to like week 1 or week 2 weights. And
week 5 is deload, week 6 is back at 0 RER.
Yeah, and with weights from week 5.
Yeah, exactly right.
Or week 4,
exactly.
like the heaviest weight that I lifted last. That's what's going back on. Yeah,
exactly. Don't be stupid.
That's we're stupid. Don't do that. If you are logging your weight, and especially as a natural versus an enhanced, you can get away with this a little bit more. As a natural, it's a little bit more tricky, and the smarter play is to probably use a weight that you used maybe week 2 weight, maybe week 3 weight even from your block. Use that as your new week 1 because you've already started in a progressive state. Yeah. That's probably most likely why you have DOMs week 1 post deload.
And I think the other part that comes to it too is a little bit psychological. Like, think about every time, like, when you work towards a deload, a deload's coming, you fucking send it, right? Like, you're like, the adrenaline's high, the white line fever's there, you got like that end goal fever that's kicked in, you're like that little bit extra motivation. It's like the end of a cut. Like, the cut's hard, or the prep is hard, but like, you get to that back end where it's like, I can get through this now. It's only 4 weeks to go, 6 weeks to go. I can break that down to 3 2-week blocks, plus the last week is peak week, plus the week before that is like, draining the last little bit. So training's not as hard. you can kind of break it down. You kind of get it to like, make it make sense like that last little bit of the season or of the block, whatever. And then you have your deload, all of that sort of like motivation's almost washed off. And then you come back, you've had that de-stress, stimulus is not as high, neural stimulation is probably not as high, and you're coming back to that same weight. It's going to feel like suddenly you've got that wash off after that big drive at the back end. Now you're like, oh, this is actually the true fatigue that was left and the true muscle soreness. And I've also now tried to match that. And now I'm getting a lot more of an actual indicator of how I was feeling. One of the things I found with some of my guys, especially like the younger ones that just want to think they can send it full tilt nonstop, is they'll put their recovery as like a 10 every week. And then I'm like, at this point of prep, at this point of training, like, and this point of food, it's not a 10. Your perception is 10. You're trying to be tough. And like, I respect it. You're trying to send it. I get it. Yeah. But I guarantee you, if I give you into a hold phase right now and refed you for 4 weeks, you're going to go back and be like, that was a fucking 6.
That, or they simply don't understand their own recovery. And like you said, trying to be tough. I had one of my clients was like that. Honestly, had a sick physique, trained hard, trained like a demon. But every week was recovery 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I'm like, you can't be. There's no way. You're not training hard enough. So now I'm training to failure. I'm like, I don't doubt you're training to failure. You're growing like a weed. But there's no way you're not there's no way you're not fatiguing. There's no chance. And then he gets injured. And you're like, wow. Well, there you go. So this is a note to all of you people who claim that you're recovering like animals.
It's not an insult. It's not a dig.
I always tell people chase the deload. I'm like,
fucking go for it.
I want you to bottom out. If you can bottom out in 2 weeks, perfect. Yeah, that's a bit excessive, but you know what I mean. Like, chase the deload. Push so hard that you earn the deload. One
of my young guys in prep did that, and it was like I could see the messages coming through a bit more complaintive. They're a bit more like niggly, a bit more this or that. The recovery is 9 and 10s. I'm like, okay, all right. Got to another week, and I was like, you know what? Rate of loss is pretty fast, so fatigue's gonna be pretty high here. If we don't pull back on this a little bit, we might just get into a hole of recovery and get into a hole of weight loss, and then like we're just gonna stress and just hold water and fucking carry that. I was like, okay, he reckons it's 10 out of 10. I'm like, all right, sweet. Started getting a bit sickish. Felt some like, just the little signs were coming to fatigue, back of the throat getting sore, a bit more fatigued and exhausted. Hunger's a bit more than usual. I was like, all right, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna reactively deload the back end of this week. Was the back end of the week? I think it might have been the start. Yeah, it was like middle of the week. I got it told after like session 1. I was like, right, we're going to deload the middle of this block here. And by like day 4, I want you to tell me how you're feeling. And then that'll indicate kind of what we do next. I didn't tell him what the plan was, but just sort of like, let's take this, cut load in half, still go to the gym, do your pose and do your cardio. I still need you to go through the motions, tick the boxes. And I'm like, and we've got a refeed trial coming up. So I'm going to fucking trial you with this, yada, yada. Anyway, fucking midway through the week, holy shit, deload feels fucking unreal. My body feels amazing. Like, what the fuck? And I was like, cool. We're going to run this deload for the rest of the week, take some load off. You're still going to go to the gym, do everything. But we'll have a bit more food. We'll do this. Comes in the next week of training, progressions. And I was like, yeah, good. Okay. So we've identified that your recovery is not as good as you thought it was. You just would you were just saying that it was. But if you're saying a recovery is a 10 and you're messaging me about niggles, which is again not a bad thing, it tells me you're fucking training. But if I can pick the cues and go, all right, we're going to react here based on what you're saying, not what you're recording. Oh, that actually had an effect. Cool. Ends up deloading with like half a kilo gain on like 500 carbs a day as a natty in prep, and I'm like, we're good.
Yeah, we're in a good spot.
Interesting.
What else we got? We got a couple here. Load. Would you rather have a vertical mouth or horizontal butt crack?
Ooh,
probably a horizontal butt crack.
Yeah,
depending on how wide. Depends how wide it is.
Yeah.
Well, then would that in theory mean like toilets are designed for that, or is it just me as a?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not expecting the toilet to be from the side of the wall, like facing the same way.
Yeah,
so
like is it sideways? Is it like an envelope?
Yeah, that's
How long did it take Aaron to get savvy with Instagram? I mean, like I said, that shit's not me, bro. That was all Brooklyn. I don't do that.
We outsource here. We outsource.
Yeah, 100%. How much utility is there in using peptides like BPC and TB500 for recovery? Now, with these two peptides especially, they do work well from anecdotes that we've seen. I don't think there's human research I haven't looked into it because it's
Mhm.
so far in the past. I don't remember, to be honest.
Mhm.
I know that there is research in rats, like most friggin' peptides that have research, they're all in rats.
Mhm.
What I've seen anecdotally, and what makes logical sense, is that they work really well synergistically with growth hormone. So if you're
Yep.
going to try and use and take the maximal benefits you can from using either of these, use it also with growth hormone.
Mhm.
That's not, saying you should do drugs, just saying if I were to do it,
If I
you
were
know,
to do this,
hypothetically, to say if I were to do this one time, which I have done, but I won't say that I've done it, use it with growth hormone.
Mhm.
Not a question, but cute photo. I know. I'm cute. These things happen. They're not talking about you. Don't worry about
that's fine.
it. Does Aaron get a pay rise for dealing with Ben's shit for 100 eps? Yes.
Correct.
If I was getting paid off this podcast, I would be taking 90% of said paycheck. And what's the worst comp day advice you've ever heard?
Worst comp day advice. Oh, I got a good one. I got a good one.
Go on.
One of the worst, like we'll take this more from like what we know in the sense of the intention behind it and how much better it could have been. One of the worst advice I heard was I was recently told from a consult, have some carbs and protein in the morning. So refeed day, have some protein and carbs, which is it's not the worst advice in like, oh, that's not a bad idea. It was that there was no quantities, no numbers, no trials, no protocols, no like previous data to go by, no assessments to say, hey, this much. It was just wake up and have some carbs and come to the show. Okay, but what carbs am I bringing to the show? What carbs am I eating? What's the options? What's the weights? Let's have some carbs, come to the show. Like fucking.
Yeah, I'm not sure about worst advice. I can't think of like any. Like I've been fortunate. I have never been really given bad comp day advice for any comps that I've done. It's like stories that I've heard, like the hot chips at a bodybuilding comp is really weird for me.
Oh yeah.
Or the hot potato
That's
chips.
interesting.
Like, I mean, if you've trialed it in your, peak and it's worked, then I mean, sure, by all means, like you're not doing anything that's crazy strenuous in terms of, the activity that you're doing, like you're posing and stuff. And I guess at that stage of depletion, you could probably run the risk of some interesting gastric things going on there if you're taking hot chips in. But if you've tested it and you trialed it, then by all means. I just found that really odd. Like there are probably better foods to fill up and carb up on.
Well, especially like
I would look at the peak. I'd look at the week, the way that person's peaked, and be probably thinking that they didn't fat load at all, and they're probably fat loading and carb loading at the same time, which is a bit of a risk come comp day. But again, like I said, if you've trialed it, by all means, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing, but I just think it was an interesting observation to have made.
I actually just thought of a better one, and it goes back to some advice or mistakes I made early in my coaching was just being excited to talk about someone about training protocols, nutrition protocols, things like that, and then found out why, and then I didn't get any credit. This person was told, so running very clean prep, like macro tracking, all sort of stuff, like that sort of thing, but controlling a very clean prep. And for would have been a 50 kilo bikini girl, 55 kilo bikini girl, something like that, running a very controlled prep, macros, data, everything's clean, swapping out to like, higher voluminous foods, a lot more vegetables, fiber, digestion, cleaner proteins. Then it gets to peak week. The night before the show, after not trialing carb trials and refeeds and things like that, not use and any carbs that were used were like, rices or rice dishes. Go have a burger and chips and a muffin.
Yeah.
Like takeaway. Go and it was a burger, chips and a Coke. And then in the morning it was like a muffin and something else. So in total, you're looking at about 2,000 or 3,000 calories because there's no guidelines on what those burgers were, what it was supposed to be, just simply like have this. And pretty much, like a 50 kilo female, let's say it's about 30, it easily would have been 2,500, 3,000 calories over that sort of 2 meals, if you will. And ends up coming on stage. Like the messages to me were around the fact that it was discomfort, distension, bloat, wateriness, holding water, fluidity. I'm like, okay, like makes sense that that's the outcome of what happened given what you put in. Like that's sensical. That's basic biology of what you would expect to occur. And this was, told to her by a coach. And then she was like, oh, like, is that how you approach things? It's like, oh no, this like makes more sense to me, blah, blah. Ends up going away and does that and wins like some fucking show. I was like, cool, bro. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
But it was more so just the fact that after everything being so controlled and linear and like clean and healthy, easy digestion, like picked for the ease of digestion, then goes, all that work we've done, throw in a burger and chips and muffin. Had none of that in prep, had none of that for the last 20 weeks. Go have that.
Yeah. That's no.
Just dumb.
No.
Just dumb.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm sure that I've got things in my head that are really stupid that I've heard. I can't recall them off the top of my head. So there's nothing that stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just more so observational stuff.
2 seconds. Oh, what other questions have I got? This fucking kicked me out of the app system. Takes forever to load. We had a good one. Yeah. The effects of nutrition on metabolism. Oh, fuck. That's an entire process. What part of the metabolism? What metabolism? Energy metabolism.
Yeah, I'm not going into that. I'll be here.
I'm going to be here for like 5 days.
Yeah.
What traits set a highly disciplined What traits set a highly disciplined, motivated athlete apart from the rest? Well,
ask that again.
What traits set a disciplined or highly disciplined, motivated athlete apart from the rest? And I think it's kind of like,
I feel like the answer's in the question.
Yeah, you kind of get the answer in the question, but at the same time, it's like the premise is understanding that discipline realistically is just execution of things. Like people look at motivation and discipline as separate things, or they look at them as like a one or the other, and you kind of get like this whole like, it's motivation or discipline. Like discipline's better. Reality is, if we go into the long-term spectrum of fucking goal setting, motivational science, it's a spectrum continuum. Discipline is built in the love and finding the love of the things you do and repetition of that behavior, and you start to accumulate very consistent action. Find the fucking like the thing.
Lifestyle.
Yes, literally like the love of their lifestyle. Like the more intrinsic you are about something, the more, I guarantee you, the more intrinsically motivated, the more disciplined the person. Why? Because they find things that they're good at, that they love in their life, that are really easy to do. You know why they're easy to do? Because they love doing them and they've developed a skill towards it and repeated that over a long period of time. The other, I guess, fact is like in that motivation is people tend to do the thing that they say they're going to do and tend to follow that up with repetition. Like it's one thing to do something you want when it's easy, or it's one thing to do the thing you want when it's like you're feeling good. It's then another thing to repeat that action consistently when things aren't in your favor. And let's say your environmental life is no longer supportive or conducive to that outcome. The ones that get really, really, really successful make their life conducive. They don't just react when life isn't conducive anymore. So I think that's like the biggest aspect there is the fact that they make everything fit, in the sense like that what they have to do is what gets done. And there's no, in between or options. And then another really good one that Cav sort of gave me an answer to was they're fucking selfish. Their trait is a discipline of selfishness.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it does depend. Well, I mean, it doesn't depend on the sport, because for you to progress in anything, and especially wanting to progress at a rate that nothing else matters, you have to be selfish. It doesn't matter what that
100%.
sport is, right? Or that endeavor. It doesn't even have to be a sport. Like the pursuit of knowledge. It's like, what do? You isolate yourself from social, situations and stuff like that because you're too busy wanting to read, study, learn, whatever it is. So it's the same concept, but it's your lifestyle. Like everything, it's ingrained in the way you go about your daily business. So it's like you don't try and plan around it. Or no, you do. Sorry, you try and plan around. You plan around it. It's your central thing.
Yes.
Like you plan the people and everything else around it is what I was trying to say without saying. Yeah, like it's what you do. It's like the gym for us is like, like this is what I'm doing at this time, and then everything else will play around with and get it in around that.
Yes.
It's like, and we'll have patches where like for you, like your business at a point was like, I'm going to do this and plan everything else around the business. And we do have those things that vary and stuff like that, but they're always in there. And it's just what's important at what time.
Yeah.
Like, but for those that are elite, like we'll call them elite athletes, we'll use sport as the example. that dial, that switch, that whatever you want to call it, is always up.
Yeah.
It doesn't come down. It doesn't vary for however long. It doesn't vary. And I think those of us that have been there, like we've done that. Like I know I've had like tennis was my elite sport. Like that never changed. That was up. That was training 3 times a day, you know, before, during, and after school, for example. And then everything else was around that.
Yeah.
Was it healthy? Maybe not. But
who the fuck is determining health anyway?
Yeah, like did I care? No, because guess what? I only wanted to get better at my sport,
that in and of itself ties into the motivation discipline of someone trying to be a successful elite athlete is something that people can't comprehend, right? When we talk about bodybuilding, we talk about fucking basketball, baseball, NRL, gridiron, NFL, whatever. They talk from a perspective of like, oh, you know, to achieve this person's going to do all these things. It's compulsive and obsessive, and it's not healthy. You're right. The perception of any elite athlete is the sacrifice or trade. So when we look at the dichotomy of choice, which is, I think, I have to double check. Epictetus spoke about the dichotomy of choice in life, in that we have to make a trade-off in the decision we want, something that we want versus, you know, when we want something, there's going to be 2 choices that we have to choose from. Now, we make that trade or sacrifice. For most people, if we put into a dichotomy, it's health or the performance. And along that spectrum, like the more you focus on your performance and results, the less healthy it becomes. They make that trade-off every single day, every minute of every day, every year of their life until their life is over, or the thing that they were doing is done. They accept that this isn't about being healthy. Every elite athlete doesn't look at their diet and go, or their nutrients and go, this helps me digest food better. It makes me fucking perform faster. I run faster on this. I train harder on this, but it's, you know, it's not the most ideal healthy option. Most of them don't give a shit. They just go, what's going to make me perform better on the day? This. Okay, that's what I'm doing. This makes me sleep better, so I perform better. They say, okay, that's what I'm doing. They're almost dismissing or throwing away the concept of health for the fact that they're so obsessed and desiring the outcome that they're making the trade-off. And it's just, I'm willing to not be healthy to get this result. And we saw it in there was like a qualitative study done, I think it was like a muscle development or fucking health and fitness magazine. And it was of like elite athletes, the Olympians. And they basically just said, if you were to take this drug and guarantee a gold medal in your sport, but you died the next day or within 5 years, would you take it?
Yeah,
50%
exactly
said yes.
Yeah, 100%.
So like your perspective on hard work is already so much less than these guys because you're weighing up health. They're not weighing up health. They're weighing up results. No, exactly, and that's the fucking crazy selfishness. Like, yeah, they got families and wives and husbands and partners and whatever. The selfishness of their sport and endeavor or their drive or their business, their career, whatever, is I don't care about you caring about that. I want to win. And so the second you get in the way of that, you're a problem. Be on board with it or get out of the way.
Yeah, it's that mentality. It's like, I remember, I'll never forget playing footy, like AFL footy, but in a VFL game down here, which is the one under AFL from Victoria. And I was playing as a midfielder and I popped my knee. My kneecap actually popped out. It was to the side.
Nice.
and I'm sitting there. You see, like I'm bashing it. I'm bashing my kneecap back in, and it popped in. It actually popped back in. I felt it click, and I'm like, I'm like, oh, we're good. The trainers are running out. They're like, dude, and they take me off. I'm like, no, I'm good. I came off, and I'm screaming at them. I'm like, strap it, hurry up, strap it. They strapped my knee. I went out and played again. Just kept playing. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It's a semi-final. Like, I don't care. Like, if I break my leg, if I can still walk on it and play, I'm gonna play. Like,
yeah,
don't be stupid. That's the mentality.
Like, hey, there was a game where I was playing halfback. It was like the last attempt I had because I came back from, I wanted to risk my injury, and I was like, you know, to put it stupidly, I wasn't insured because like my spinal damage, no club would insure me. So when I registered for the club, I basically listed that I had no previous injuries. That immediately waivers my liability of insurance because now I'm taking I'm taking fault. I've lied to the fucking medical data. So I'm fucking like, I'm already in this point where I'm like, that just summed me up as a person. I was like, I miss playing. I'm fucking doing this. I want to play. But I knew if I signed that, they were. What's that?
What insurance?
Yeah, they weren't gonna fucking like. If I tick that box, I wasn't playing. So I was like, well, fuck that. I just want to tick the box. Anyway, I remember we're playing this team. We're fucking pumping them, and we're down like 3 or 4 players. And I think I was playing halfback at the time. And I copped this knee. We had no other substitutes to basically fill my spot. And I made this break, and I got stopped by a big Polynesian fella, and I copped a fucking knee in the tackle, like deliberate knee. The guy came in for almost like a flop, knee straight to the eye, and basically like I felt this like the instant connection. It rattled my head a bit, swelled up, But the increase in adrenaline and the pump of everything, it almost like delayed the blood flow to my eye, so it wasn't quite as bad. I've got a headache and all that sort of shit. Come half time, like I could feel it coming on. I'm like, I can't come off. Went around the back to the trainers. I'm like, look, I've probably got a concussion, but where's the painkillers? I just want to thin my fucking blood out. It's going to stop that, not make it swell as much. Took it with some pre-workout because I'm like, that'll get it in faster.
Yeah.
Well, you fucking win the game, like convincingly. And I'm like cheering, pumped, it's all great, walking around the shed. Coach is like, he's this old school hard ass who's never happy. And he's finally giving credit. And everyone's like, yeah, stoked. My legs out from under me collapsed. All I do is come through an ambulance coming and I got a fucking ice pack on my eye and I fucking can't. I got dudes recording me being like, old Tom Cruise over here putting on an act. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? And then the trainer's like, we've got to take you to the hospital. I'm like, no. And she's like, they're like, if we take you, we've got to write this down. You won't be able to play for 3 games because of all the new head rules. And I was like, what? No. I'm like, that.
What's the problem? What head?
I'm not doing
what
that.
Head problem?
Yeah, like, I'm not fucking doing that.
It's just
left that to go home and like iced it and that sort of shit. By the time I rested and slowed down, fucking swelling. But in the moment of it, I'm like, bro, we're fucking winning this game and I'm down players. I'm not coming off. Like, I don't have the time. So what do? The dumbest shit possible, which was try and delay the injury occurring. Next minute, slow down, heart rate relaxes, body starts to catch up. I'm out.
Yeah, 100%.
Genius. Fucking genius. But again, that's the understanding that people don't have when they start talking about, like, they can't shift from looking how they perceive the world to how the elites view things. Is you're looking for longevity and long-term health at, 80, 90 years. We're looking at how do I, or say where, that's puts me in the same category. It's not. They're looking at how do I do this and do it really, really well while I'm here. It's a very different perspective to have. If you had to only eat soup and one type of soup for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
I don't eat soup, bro.
I don't eat soup, but I'm gonna go probably
the only soup that I ever had was my nonna's. It's called chicken brodo for anybody that understands Italian. It's really just chicken broth. Let's be real. It's got chicken in it. It's got, like, you can put vegetables in it. I don't have it with vegetables. I just have the broth with chicken pieces in it, and then you put a pasta in it. Like, you can put, like, the little baby pastas in there. We have a pasta called pastina, which is like dots. They're so small, but you put like a ton of them in and you eat it. You put a little bit of cheese in it. Oh, done. That's the only soup I ever ate. And since she's passed, I haven't had it since. Well, I think I had it once at my auntie's, but that's about it.
If I had to get a soup, I'd probably get like those big man cans. It's basically a meal in a soup. It's fucking.
Was it the steaky one? Remember the old school?
Yeah, fucking oath, man. Yeah,
the
it's like
chunky
super
steak
gravy
soup or whatever it is.
Steaky. It's like fucking heavy chunks. Like, bro, done. It's got carbs, fats, and protein, and it's got vegetables in it.
Yeah, I just wouldn't eat soup. Fuck it. Does it? I mean, can I like just blend something and call it soup?
Yeah.
Does that count?
What if I just make cereal and let the milk go warm?
And have it with Weet-Bix.
Yeah, exactly.
Technically cereal, technically soup.
What about just have watery oats?
There isn't the argument that cereal is a soup.
Yeah, cereal's a soup. It's just cold.
Yeah, exactly right.
Last one. What do you envision the client differences will be in the US versus Australia? What do I envision as the differences?
From the US and Australia.
Between, like, I think as a population, it's going to be very similar. It's just a larger scale. But I think a lot of America, like when it gets to like athlete levels and stuff like that, can be I find very intense in like their over polarization, sexualization of stuff. There's 360 million people. There's bound to be people a lot more, like, the bell curve is just larger, the population. So you're going to get more of extreme as the population gets bigger, right? So you're going to have larger degrees of extreme people. So they talk a lot of shit in the sense that, like, this micro detail is worth way more than it is because they have to sell themselves that try and sound sexual and sexualize the idea. So I think there's going to be a lot more extremities of what they think the solution is. And when we look at the data, we really see, and I'm positioning it that way, is that the basics done really well has the largest impact. It's the largest bang for buck body composition wise. I just think there's more people out in America that think, well, because there's more people, there's going to be more people that think that the extremes are required to get a basic result. Like, I've got to cut everything and I can't have any food I enjoy and I've got to do 30 hours of training a week and I've got to do all these things and fuck your missus some more, go to bed on time, eat more protein, train hard, cut out the pizza 7 days a week, maybe do it 3.
Yeah, the interesting thing about, like, the States, especially, there's a lot of funding in the States for a lot of the stuff that we do. they're probably the primary hub for sports science, we'll call it.
Yes.
We'll branch everything under sports science,
Yeah.
nutritional science. It's all we're just under one sort of branch, right? Applied sciences, we can call it if you like. That's where most of the funding and the research is done. So they're the ones that usually would come out with the research and the results, and then in theory, the strategies and stuff to implement, all that sort of stuff, right? Now, there's so few of them that can do that well.
Yes,
For such a big population, they don't do it very well. And I think what happens is the rest of the world, especially like England and ourselves here in Australia, we either follow or we're able to critically think maybe on a better, more efficient scale, that we're able to see that and see those that actually portray it in a way that makes logical sense, and then utilize it for our own, benefit for our own clients and stuff like that. So it's like, the scale in America, would be quite varied because there's so many people, but the best of the best is still very niche and very small.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get lucky as a population here, at least the people that we associate with. So
yeah, I agree. And I think that's going to be like the biggest positioning of myself there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who you get in front of. Like, which population will it be? The smart, or will it be the guys that are like, you're not teaching me anything new, which is definitely not a bad thing. Or it's like, like, is this how we sort of think about it? And then it's like, well, how are you that far behind?
Yeah,
I live in an island.
That's where I'm like, interested to see where I plot in the sense of like just how different are these people versus kind of not kind of different, but I guess like what will their hot takes be away from what I say? Because judging by the conversations I've had with the people presenting or the people there, it's already going to be almost like groundbreaking information. And I think they were already expecting me to come in talking heavy data, heavy science. And I was already in my approach, like using the matter method, if you will, if we kind of termed it, including the person's psychology, their individual differences, training and nutrition, you get a very easy approach to coaching. It's just that you've got to be able to understand, to apply the data and apply the population studies to the right people, I guess, in the right way and find how it works. So I'll be interested to see. I think that'll be I think that'll be a nice little difference there. Because like obviously with being like the center of the world and the center of the education world, if you will, or the sports science world, can come with the territory of ego that you know everything. And so it'll be like it can play up to that you know more than you do, or almost like it's not worth listening to. There's another approach. But if the approaches you currently have are working, you wouldn't have the population condition issues that you have. So there's obviously something that's there's a degree of difference here that isn't quite landing. So it'd be interesting to see because like the population that's attending the summit is a lot more coach based. So it's not to say like these are talking to athletes or talking to general populations. It's more so just talking to the coaches coaching the people. So I'd be curious to see how they find the information. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful, simple, effective. Hopefully this one records and saves.
I can't do episode 100.3.
Yeah, well, true. We'll see how we go. But this will come out while I'm up in Brisbane, and then the next episode we can record in Brisbane. So that should be fun.
Yeah, we got a place.
Yeah, you're welcome. I came up with the idea. Whatever.
Go fucking Joe Rogan with it. Have to get some mushrooms to talk about, or some like greens powder or something.
Are we getting like litty titty high or king?
I mean, it's like a Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
What's the problem?
I'm not see an issue here. What's the ventilation in this place like? Are we going to hotbox it?
Just fucking look. If we have to do the vapes with like marijuana in it, I'm sure we can work it out.
Just plug the doors and that so none of the air gets out.
Anyone in Queensland listening that's got vapes with marijuana in it, let us know. Yeah.
Don't send it to my address. Don't DM me immediately.
Just meet us at the studio. Join in.
Brilliant.
That is it from us, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Have a safe weekend because this should come out on Saturday still.
Yes.
And we will speak to you next week. As always.
See you guys.
Goodbye.